I'm going to pick up where we left off on the first lecture, and I was going to have Sergio Frade come up here and demonstrate something that's going to kind of show you how to develop the wind power and the tongue level and all this. And last year I had him do a demonstration. It was from the Claude Gordon Systematic Approach book, lesson 2. I use this terminology, up routine and down routine. Down routine meaning like a series of exercises that just chromatically work down through all the keys, taking it as low as you can go. And that trains the tongue to feel what it's like to get to the very bottom of your range. And then you take about a 5-minute break, and then you work your way back up as high as you can go. I think one of the things that's kind of unique with Claude's teaching, and I know that there are some other people that do this, but not very many, is the idea of working on a range study. I've run into people before where they think, well, my range is, I'm not a great high note player, I just can't do that. And the thing that I think is interesting is there are exercises you can work on to develop it because it's a physical thing, and this is how you do that. So having it in your practice routine every day is an important thing. Now, Sergio, I was going to tell a little bit about him because I thought this was kind of interesting. Sergio is from Portugal, and people throughout this term comeback trumpet player. And Sergio, how old are you? 39. And Sergio was in an accident. How old were you in that? You can come on up here. Sergio was in an accident when he was younger where he was, I think, marching or playing or something. He was hit in the mouth. His mouth was cut up and had stitches in it or something like that. And he quit playing for like how long?
For 7 years, I didn't play.
So 7 years he stopped playing the trumpet. And then he contacted me, I think in about 2004, 2005. And he was in Toronto, and he'd stumbled across the Claude Gordon Systematic Approach book, started practicing it, reading some of the stuff that was in it, and I think it made a whole lot of sense to him, and that's how we kind of dialogued back and forth and eventually got going with the lessons over the internet. So he's a perfect example of someone that to just kind of show you that any of us could do this, because here he hadn't played for a long time. He got back in it, and he's playing professionally in Portugal, and even even on Saturday nights going to be playing along with Harry and the band. And it's something that, I mean, it could be encouraging to all of us that we can all do this. So the lesson that I picked for this year to have him demonstrate is Systematic Approach Lesson 8. This is actually one of my favorite types of range studies in the book because it really shows how, if you thumb through the Claude Gordon Systematic Approach book, I like to, and I think this is a smart way to do when you're getting a book, is to try to look at the whole book, get a big picture, and see the patterns that develop in the book. When you look at a lot of Claude's books, they're set up in a systematic way where they start easier and get harder in different aspects. The Systematic Approach book, you'll see that the beginning of the book has 1-octave arpeggios, and then it has 2-octave arpeggios, 3-octave arpeggios, and the whole idea as you move through the book is the range of the exercises are expanding. So it's kind of combining range and flexibility together, because just being able to pick off a high note by itself is not really usable. You want to get to where you have playable range so that you can play from low to high and use all these notes. So this study, there are these arpeggios that are 2-octave arpeggios, and this is the down routine part of it. I'm going to have Sergio start with this, and it'll kind of serve as like you could do this as the first part of your practice each day, or what I sometimes, or most of the time for myself, I'll put it as the last part of my practice, because after you do it, you want to take a rest up to maybe like an hour. So if I put it at the end of the day, it's the last thing I play, and I go to bed and don't have to worry about anything after that. So I'll have Sergio start off with this, and some things to point out that Claude added into the book. Like, you notice he put a little check mark there. That was so that you'd take a breath. And so the first 5 notes, what you're trying to do is kind of get a nice full resonant sound. Then you take a breath and you go up the arpeggio, and then this little line right here, Claude was adding in there to extend the arpeggio another octave lower. And the other thing that when you look at the Systematic Approach book or any other book, the Claude was really creative and would add things or modify things depending on the student. So you don't really think of it as like, okay, this is the only way to do it. There's the Claude Gordon assignment. There is no Claude Gordon like specific step one, step two. It's all kind of dependent on you, and you follow the principles and kind of put it together to make it work for what you can handle. So let me have Sergio do that and do the long hold on the end. And you notice, like at the end, he was doing the thing that Dr. Miller was talking about, where you do this squeeze, keeping your chest up, and even to the point your muscles might shake a little bit from doing that squeeze. There's the next one, key of B. Also notice when you're doing it, there's like these little crescendos and decrescendos. That's the idea of coordinating the wind power and the tongue so that you do that. Next one. And when you're doing the pedal tones, like from pedal C down through pedal F sharp, it can be flat, and it's actually better to leave it flat and get that full kind of resonant sound. A lot of times our ear is kind of telling us to play it in tune, and if you try to play it in tune before you're really ready, it'll end up giving you the wrong feel for the pedal tones, which really won't accomplish the same thing. Next one. Some other things that I think are important is, you notice there's no time signature in the book. Claude intentionally didn't write a time signature or a key signature. When you're sometimes in the books there are quarter notes or half notes. The principle that I would get you to think about is like, you don't want to play so slow that it makes you stiff. You don't want to play so fast that it's going to be sloppy. So somewhere, and that's kind of individual to each person too. Next one. You also notice that he's not playing really loud on the pedals, because sometimes if you play the pedals really too loud, it'll kind of get you all spread out feeling and things won't work right. So that's where sometimes people overdo the pedals and they won't get any results because they're kind of playing them in the wrong way. Next one. Another thing that I think is kind of interesting when you're doing the long held out note like this, the tendency that I think we a lot of times have, you know, if you see someone where they're picking up something that's really heavy, we do this just instinctively where you'll tend to like do something with your face where you're like, and this kind of teaches you a little bit of control too, because you're wanting to keep the note really steady, not let the tone change, not to let the pitch waver as much as possible. And then it kind of teaches you to keep this from getting out of whack when you're squeezing all the air out, because all you really need to do is keep your tongue in the same position and blow all the air out, and when you're playing, it'll make your playing even better under control. Next one. Okay, now the next one starts on a pedal F, and from this range from pedal F down through C sharp, it doesn't really resonate on the harmonics on the trumpet, so you have to test the pitch so that you know you're going to be on track. So he's going to check the F that's the octave above so you can hear. Next one, E. Okay, next one, E flat. Now, another thing that's important is in the book there's a rest after each exercise. You don't interpret it as being a literal 4-beat rest. It's the principle is that you rest as much as you play. The idea behind that is that you practice so you don't get fatigued. If you get fatigued, then you're going to start to pick up bad habits and you learn how to play that way, where if you never let yourself get tired, then all you're doing is picking up good habits. So that's something that you should do in all your practice. D. Okay, then D flat. Okay, and then the next exercise, you can see at the top of the page, it actually continues to the next part of the page. And I mentioned this, how this is, Claude would use this term elevator exercise, where it expands out. See this one, and then it adds another note, and then it's expanding out higher. This is personally my favorite type of range study. But then he wrote it up here, it's kind of hard to make out. So you go there, it says continue up to top C. So what he did, Claude, once he hit pedal C, he'd add another octave on top. So instead of doing a 2-octave arpeggio, you're doing a 3-octave arpeggio. So it adds this flexibility part in the range study, and it feels pretty good when you're doing it. So start at that point. Now, I think now in the book it says continue down as far as possible. I think last year we had you go down to like triple LC or triple pedal C or something like that. I mean that's real, that you go beyond what's in the book. The mentality behind it is that you just don't stop. And I think this is an important thing in your practice where Dr. Miller said, Herbert Clarke told Claude Gordon, don't stop where I've gone. It's just this general mentality of you're trying to push yourself to be more excellent. When I think about all the different trumpet players and even just people in general that I admire, it's the people that just haven't been mediocre, but are trying to push themselves to go beyond. So, I mean, it could be exercises you're doing with, could be music, could be creative ideas. Like I think about some of the people I admire, like Alan Vizzuti. I mean, he's figured out how to do some pretty wild, crazy things on the trumpet that no one else had done before. And we should all try to do stuff like that. You know, each of us being creative can come up with different things that are kind of unique. So where it kind of starts is like in our practice. So if we're working on breath control or range or tonguing speed, trying to not just be satisfied with where we are, but trying to push ourselves further. So that's where the continue down as far as possible, go as far as you can. And let's go to the next part. Normally you take a 5-minute rest. Up here you can see where Claude like scribbled out where it said take a 15-minute rest. The reason why he did that is because he said he knew if he wrote 15 minutes in the book, people would be lucky to rest 5 minutes. So, because most people don't want to rest like they should. So here's the next page on the second study right there where it's going to expand out. So we'll start on that one. Good. Notice the little kick that he gives as he goes up and how it was even penciled in there. Okay, then the next one where it adds another arpeggio on there. And what you're trying to feel is how the air is going to do the work for you, and where it doesn't feel like it's your lip doing anything, but the air is just helping you go up. Hold on, there. Oh, no, it did like 2. There. Okay, I think you did. You did the next one. You did the C sharp. You want to do the one after that? Okay. Yeah. Okay, here's. I'll do it manually. There. Now, what did I do? I went backwards. I'm going to try the one that goes F sharp. So you can tell that that's like pretty comfortable for him, slurring 3 octaves. What I would usually add in there too for myself is like another octave underneath it. So do that again and put a pedal F sharp at the end. Yeah, like that. Now, to save time, we could keep going on. Let me skip ahead to where you can see the whole page. See where it goes. I mean, it goes chromatically up till you're going to like. It's only written to an A, so take you a double A and go up to like a double high C. But the idea of where it's expanding like that, and you're trying to feel the air taking you up to the top notes as opposed to your lips. That's the main point of all of it. So that's basically it. And oh wait, after this. Go ahead.
I just had a question. Do you know why Claude did not in any way use the natural harmonic series here?
He does sometimes, but in this one, like in some of his things, like with the Charles Cullen Advanced Lip Flexibility book where it uses the harmonic series, he'd do that. Some of his exercises, like daily trumpet routines, he's going like a C to a high B flat with a high B flat open. But in this part, he sticks with just the chords. So I think it's just his choice of doing major chords as opposed to the series. Then after you do the range study, the thing that you always do is what he'd write on the end of the routine, relaxed lips. It's kind of like what some people call a warm down. It's like a 2-octave or more arpeggio going down to pedal C. So Sergio will just play that, and you do this to kind of loosen up after that. So you do that like 3 times, and then you set your trumpet down and you rest, and you don't touch it for like about an hour. And then you could either, like I like it doing this at the end of the day, or you could do that and then later come back to the rest of your practice. Let's give Sergio a round of applause. Hey,
yes, sir.
How are you doing?
Yes. Good.
We're here in South Carolina, and this is for the brass camp similar to the one that you went to with Claude Gordon before. And
are you live already? Are you live already?
Yeah, we're live. People are looking at you right now. They're behind me.
Hello. How are you? Good afternoon.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to flip the camera around so that they'll see you, and then they'll be using the other camera.
I see the floor now.
You see me okay now?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, cool. Well, I know that when you were in Cuba, you practiced a lot of Claude Gordon stuff, and I know that some of the things that make it a little different are what we call the K-tongue modified and how you single tongue. Could you maybe explain to us how you do it and what you think about using syllables like E for high notes and off for low notes, and how you single tongue?
Oh, the using of all different syllables, of course, is crucial. It's very, very important, because otherwise you explode trying to get sounds, and you're never going to you're going to be struggling to get the right sound. And when you use the different syllable for score, it's easier.
Now, when you play in the high register, you're single tonguing with your tip of your tongue is not going up onto the top teeth, right? It's like arched up in the front. And
I try to keep it arched, but once again, I try to follow that by ear always. Where I got that sound,
right?
And a clear attack, the attack has to be precise and clear. You understand what I mean? Try to get the attack clear and precise, and all the control, especially for the timing, because the attack should be exactly when you want that sound appears. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean.
No, when that happens. No, when you want, you must have that under control. For example, you do. Those kind of things, and you have to keep your coordination, because it's also a matter of coordination of your attack to be exactly when you want that happens. But always, that's my best recommendation to anybody is follow the sound. Right. The quality of the sound must be the first priority. The first priority is the quality of your sound. If you produce a good sound and you play a couple of notes, everybody's gonna love it. You could play thousands of notes with the wrong sound and nobody cares.
Sure. What are you currently working on, and what can we be looking for? Maybe like your next album or next recording that you're gonna be.
Man, I'm working so many things. You can't believe it. Last week, I recorded a couple of solos in the new Tony Bennett record. I don't know when it's going to be out because they're still mixing. And also, 2 weeks ago, I recorded also a couple of solos in the brand new Barbra Streisand record. And beside that, we just finished something with Dave Hidman. You know Dave?
Yeah.
There in Arizona?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Dave produced a record with, it's a tribute to Rafael Mendez.
Cool. So are you
And
playing
we
any of
did,
the Rafael Mendez solos on it?
oh yeah, we did a bunch of things, solos, and then we did a bunch of duets, David and me, and then we did a bunch of trios with different people, you know, with Gene DeWitt, the guy from LA Philharmonic,
Yeah.
and James Lindemann from Canadian Brass, and then was Wayne Bergeron, David Himman, Bob Caron, which is, he played in the Hollywood Bowl Orchestra,
Right.
and myself. We did two pieces. It's a six trumpet and piano.
Cool. Well,
And then we did all those trios. Mendez used to play with his twin sons.
right.
We recorded all those things. We have a lot of fun, man. That was a great project.
Cool.
And then I just finished my new album, which is a tribute to Dizzy Gillespie. It's a big band. And we start now in the process of mixing. Actually, today, we're going to start mixing. And beside that, I'm working very hard. I'm producing the next Gypsy King album, which is a completely different thing. There's a lot of guitars and singing and a lot of percussion, this and that and that. I'm producing and we're recording here in my little studio.
Great. Well, we're going to be looking forward to that. Thanks for talking with us, and
Oh, no problem, man. Okay, man.
I'd love to have you out here sometime. We're going to figure out a way to make that work out
Beautiful.
sometime.
It's up to you. You want me there? I'll be there.
Okay. Well, you have a good afternoon.
You too, man. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
This is a really kind of wild and crazy story. I teach people on the internet, and when this guy first contacted me, I didn't know if he was for real, and his story is really really interesting. He Ali Daneshkhah, I'm not quite sure if I'm pronouncing it right. He's actually from Tehran, and he contacted me asking me questions about playing, and he's done lessons over a year now, and he works as the censor of music for the IRIB. It stands for the Islamic Republic of Iran Broadcasting Network. And it's basically their government-run broadcasting network that's totally government-controlled. Nobody listens to any news or music or anything that they don't want you to listen to. So we've dialogued back and forth. He's told me how he really does not like living in the country, wants to leave. He loves playing trumpet, he wants to play and leave the country. And when we started, I said, he's got a brother that's in London, and he got the Arturo Sandoval movie, For Love of Country. How many of you have ever seen that movie? So he's watched the movie, and he said, oh, that's his dream. He wants to get to where he can play the trumpet good enough to either get a scholarship at some university or someplace to leave the country. And so when he first contacted me, I think what this shows you is that a lot of us we have much more than some other people in the world. So this thing I'm going to play is a video clip he sent from his cell phone where he practices. And then I'm going to play a sample of what he just did about a week ago.
Sir, this is actually my instrument. This is a Yamaha 4335, and this is the place that I play there. This is a box at the end of RIB Center in Zanjan. Right over a pool here, and this is a beautiful field here, as you can see.
Okay, and then last year I had Sean Hines, who I didn't mention this last year. Sean played the etude from Clarke's 5 in one breath. He couldn't be here this year, and Sean was my very first student that I started teaching on the internet in 2004. I wish he could have been here this year, but then I started thinking about this, because Ali just was able to play this in one breath, so I asked him if he could put it on a videotape. So this is him recording it. So that's his picture. If you're on Facebook, he's actually on my Facebook, and I don't know how he's able to do Facebook out of Iran, and it's been kind of a challenge for us to even do video chat out of Iran, but we figured out a way to make that work. There's a way to do things with setting things up that they can't figure out yet. Now with Clarke's technical studies, tomorrow I'm going to do a little talk about Clarke's and explain some patterns with the Clarke's technical studies book, and I've already given you in the booklet when you came in where it lists all the fingerings off. What I think would probably be good is look through that. You can pencil that into your own Clarke's book, and then I'll explain kind of the reasoning behind some of that. I mentioned soft playing. And I think I'm going to end right after this because sometimes people misunderstand the idea of some of the breath control stuff and what's possible. And I'm going to try to demonstrate like what's possible with soft playing, because I think playing soft is something that people don't always practice. Let me see if I can do this. I'm going to try to play as soft as I can. Now, reason why I was demonstrating that is because in order to play soft, it takes just as much power as playing loud. And this is where, with the Claude Gordon stuff, when I was beginning, with the idea of kicking the air on the top notes and playing stronger, you have to do that. There's kind of like a sequence of how you're supposed to learn it. If you don't get used to blowing stronger, you're really not going to be able to play the soft stuff correctly. And when you're playing soft, you have to use just as much power to where you're keeping your chest up. And I'm trying to blow at the same intensity, but restraining it and controlling it. So I think that's an aspect of the later stages of working on Clarke's technical studies that sometimes people miss. One of the things that I think is kind of interesting, Dr. Miller played the clip of Doc Severinsen, and I never got to hear the Tonight Show band play. I really should have done it sooner, but I remember waiting in line on the very last day that they were doing the last show, and I was like third from the door, and they let someone else go in, and I missed it. And that was the last show where Jay Leno was hosting it, and Doc Severinsen and the band never did it on the show. But they had a lead trumpet player at one time that he was one of only two people that Claude said he thought came close to sounding like Conrad Gazzo. How many of you have ever heard of Conrad Gazzo's name? So Conrad Gazzo was like a legendary lead trumpet player that had this huge sound. And Claude said that Johnny Audino was the guy that played lead in the Tonight Show band that you heard earlier. And there was another guy, George Graham, who's still alive, but I think he's retired from playing trumpet now. He's out in Los Angeles. Those are the only two people that Claude thought had this really huge sound. The only person I think I've heard that comes close to this is like Harry or Arturo Sandoval, where they have such a huge sound that feels like it fills up the room. Well, Claude told a story once before how he was driving through Los Angeles and he heard trumpet and he didn't know where it was coming from, and so he just started driving around and he pulled up and it was like a dance band playing, and he heard this great trumpet, went in, and it was Conrad Gazzo playing, and he wasn't really blasting or anything, but his sound was just like so big that it just totally projected for a long ways. And so with Johnny Audino, he had this same sort of a sound. And one of the things that he used to practice was soft playing, like flexibility and Clarke's technical studies and stuff like that. And I used to go to church with a guy named Walt Johnson, and Walt was really good friends with him. And when Johnny Audino passed away, I think it was actually Walt that found him, like when he passed away. And I remember Walt telling me that every morning Johnny Audino would play soft stuff. And it seems kind of interesting because Johnny Audino is like one of the most powerful trumpet players, but he said that the way he was able to play really powerful was by working on playing soft. And it makes sense because if you can get everything to work at a really soft volume, then you know that your lips are going to vibrate really efficiently, and then as you blow stronger. So that's where the soft playing is such a big deal, where if all we ever did we were playing really loud, then we'd be missing some of that control.